You've been running for over 20 hours. No sleep. Your muscles are screaming in pain, your lungs are on fire, every joint aches, you're soaked to the bone, cold despite the tropical humidity. You're hungry, but the thought of food makes you nauseous. This isn't a horror movie. This is the reality of the Hurt 100 ultramarathon in Hawaii. 100 miles, that's 160 kilometers. Along one of the most challenging and dangerous routes in the world, our hero, let's call him David, is right there. And only one thought echoes in his head, David's inner voice. That's it. I can't go on. This is the end. The fuel tank is 99% empty. One more step and I'll just collapse here and won't get up. What's the point? Why am I doing this? And at that moment, at the very bottom of despair, he sees another runner ahead. It's Akos Konya, one of the best ultramarathoners on the planet, an elite in the sport, but something is wrong with him. Akos isn't running. He's slowly walking in circles, his gaze empty, muttering something to himself. He's completely disoriented. His body is here, in the jungle, but his mind is somewhere far away. He's broken. The sight of a broken champion should have been the final nail in the coffin of David's motivation. If even a giant like Akos couldn't endure, what hope did he have? But the opposite happens. David looks at a man who has reached his absolute limit and asks himself a different question. What if that voice in my head screaming, "Give up," is lying? What if my limit is much further than I think? What if I haven't used 99% of my strength, but only 40? Hi, what you've just witnessed isn't just a story about extreme endurance. It's a perfect metaphor for the battle that happens inside each of us every day. A battle with an invisible enemy that stops us long before we reach our true potential. Today, we won't talk about empty just do it motivation. We'll delve into the psychology and neurobiology of our limits. We'll explore a concept known as the 40% rule, and understand why our brain is our biggest ally and at the same time our most cunning saboteur. And by the end of this video, you'll realize that you have a vast, untouched reservoir of strength you never even knew existed. Let's begin. As soon as you set an ambitious goal, anything from changing jobs to running your first mile, you immediately face two types of enemies, external and internal. The first, external, are the most obvious. These are what some systems of thought call pendulums. The universe, or if you prefer, the social environment, seems to test your strength. It throws doubts, counter-arguments, and the skepticism of others at you. This is the first filter. And to pass it, you only need one thing: absolute confidence in your goal. You must feel its rightness with both your mind and your soul. If your confidence is unshakable, the external voices will fall silent. But then the second enemy awakens, the internal one. And it is far, far more dangerous. Inside each of us is a built-in defense mechanism. It can be called the limiter. Imagine a racing car engine. Engineers know it can produce 10,000 revolutions per minute, but they install an electronic limiter at 8,000 to prevent the engine from exploding from overload. Our brain does the same thing with our body and psyche. Its main task is not to make us great, but to keep us alive, safe, comfortable. And for this, it uses powerful software written based on our entire lives, our past failures, our fears, our insecurity, the pain we once experienced. When you're running and you find it hard to breathe, the limiter whispers, "Stop or you'll suffocate." When you're working on a complex project and feel mentally exhausted, it screams, "Give up, you'll burn out." When you face criticism, it says, "See, I told you it wouldn't work. Let's go back to the couch, it's safe there." Pain, fatigue, apathy, procrastination, doubt. These are not signs of your real limit. They are alarm signals that your limiter activates to make you stop. It's a feedback loop. And this is where we get to the most revolutionary idea. It's the 40% rule. It was formulated based on the experiences of elite special forces, ultramarathoners, and people who have gone through superhuman trials. The rule states, the moment your mind tells you that you're done, that you can't go on, that your strength is completely depleted, you've only used 40% of your real potential. Let this thought sink in. When you're on the treadmill and you think you'll die if you run another 100 meters, you still have 60% of your strength left. When you're studying for an exam and your brain feels like it's melting, as if not a single new line can fit in, you still have 60% of your cognitive resource left. When you're standing on stage and are afraid to say the first word, you still have 60% of your courage left. The desire to give up is not a sign of real exhaustion. It's the work of your limiter, sounding the alarm at the 40% mark to save the precious 60% for a rainy day. But what if your entire life is that very day worth giving your all for? Understanding this rule changes everything. David in the jungle realized his feeling of 99% exhaustion was just an illusion created by his brain for self-preservation. His body could handle much more. He just needed to convince his mind of it. But how? How do you hack this code? How do you turn off the limiter? The answer is simple and at the same time terribly complex. You must consciously move towards pain and discomfort. You must toughen your mind, just as a guitarist toughens his fingertips, pressing the strings again and again until the skin hardens and the pain ceases to be an obstacle. Think of a boxer. In his first sparring match, a punch to the jaw knocks him down. The pain seems unbearable, the world blurs before his eyes. His brain screams, "Danger, run," but he gets up. And again, and again. After 10 years of training, he can endure 12 rounds of brutal fighting. Did the punches get weaker? No, the pain from the blow is exactly the same. But his brain has adapted. It has raised its pain threshold. It has toughened itself. It has learned to tell the limiter, "Thanks for the info, I know it hurts. But we're continuing, this is practice." You must start chasing pain as if it were a job. Not in the sense of masochism, but in the sense of finding that point where your mind says stop and taking one more step. Did 10 push-ups and can't do any more? Do 11. Ran 3 kilometers and you're dying. Run 3 kilometers and 100 meters. Read 20 pages and your eyes are closing. Read one more paragraph. It is in this tiny, just a little more, that the magic happens. You are not trying to immediately access all 60% of your reserve. That is impossible and dangerous. You are simply showing your limiter that its panic was false. You took one more step and didn't die. Next time it will allow you to go a little further before sounding the siren. And so, step by step, you push back your wall. We tend to think of failure as the end of the road. But in the paradigm of the 40% rule, failure is the most effective training ground for toughening the mind. Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player in history, once said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed." Every missed shot, every lost game was not a tragedy for him, but another training session for his limiter. He taught his brain to stay in the game even when everything was going wrong. He toughened his mind so that in the next crucial moment when the pressure was overwhelming and his hands were shaking, his inner voice wouldn't scream, "You'll miss again," but calmly say, "We've been here hundreds of times, just do your job." Or take the story of rapper 50 Cent. In 2000, he was shot 9 times. Bullets hit his arm, hip, both legs, chest, and left cheek. Surviving that is a miracle in itself. But he didn't just survive. He used that experience, that extreme pain and confrontation with death as fuel. His limiter was, you could say, destroyed. After 9 bullets, the fear of music critics' opinions or a label's rejection seemed simply ridiculous. He built his empire on a foundation of absolute inflexibility, forged on that day. Let's apply this to a more everyday level. Imagine you're taking an important exam you've been studying for months. You open the test and realize you don't know the answer to the first question, or the second, or the third. Your limiter panics. It's all over. This is a failure. What's the point of staying here? Leave. Save some dignity. 99% of people in this situation mentally give up. They either leave or just sit waiting for the end. But a person who practices mental toughening will act differently. They will tell themselves, "Okay, I'll probably fail this exam, but I'll stay here until the last second. I'll think about every question, even if I don't know the answer. I'll train my discipline and my ability to stay calm under pressure. This failure will be my best training before the next exam, which I will pass." Any failure is invaluable practice. It's an opportunity to force yourself to work under the most unfavorable conditions. You're not just failing a test, you're building mental calluses that will make you stronger for the next challenge. You learn to ignore the voice of panic, and that is a superpower. David finished that race. He not only passed many who were physically stronger than him, but he also qualified for the next, even more challenging Badwater race. He didn't win because he got a second wind. He won the moment he realized, in the darkness of the Hawaiian jungle, that his pain and fatigue were just data, not a command. Our brain evolved to keep us in our comfort zone. This was a great strategy for survival in the savannah thousands of years ago. But in the modern world, this strategy prevents us from growing, developing, and achieving what we are truly capable of. The 40% rule is not a call for reckless self-destruction. It's an invitation to a dialogue with yourself. It's a reminder that your potential, like an iceberg, most of it is hidden beneath the surface of familiar fatigue and doubt. Next time you hit your wall, when that inner voice says, "Enough," stop for a second. And just ask yourself, What if this is only my 40%? You don't have to immediately run an ultramarathon. Find your discomfort in the small things. Your personal training can start today. Read one more page. Walk one more stop. Work on your project 15 minutes longer than you planned. These are small, insignificant victories over your limiter. But from hundreds of such victories, an unyielding character is forged. You will realize that you are capable of enduring much, much more than you ever thought. Because as the old wisdom goes, the only exit that truly doesn't exist is the exit from the coffin. Everything else is just an obstacle waiting for you to prove you are stronger. Thanks for watching. If this video made you think, share it with someone who might need it. Write in the comments when you last encountered your limiter and how you overcame it. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new in-depth analyses. And for now, go and find your 60%.